Watch out, it's Mark and Pete.
Hello and welcome to the show. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete. Yes, this is the show dedicated to religion, politics and business. Now each week, clergyman Pete and businessman Mark debate an important topic. Well, there can be none more important than the one today. And that is there anywhere safe in the world anymore? We look at what's happened in 2017, albeit that it's a few days old. Sadly, we look at the news and we see that there is more atrocities occurring. Just a few examples. Fort Lauderdale airport shooting, tragedy there. We continue when we look around the world. Killings in Jerusalem by Palestinians who rammed a lorry into a group of soldiers. We then even turn to the United Kingdom, where a man was shot dead on the M62. Why? Well, we will debate this in a lot more detail. But I'm just going to set up some of the thoughts here with what's actually happening with a little poem. It's called Dangerous Thoughts. Is there anywhere safe in the world anymore? Does stress on the streets appear at your door? What sparks such violence that we all abhor? Is there a growing issue we cannot ignore? Can even smart mobile devices start a world war? Should I communicate instead with semaphore? Why is the mass media just awash with gore? Is the terror on television like a tuned eyesore? Why do dangerous thoughts form a political score? Are we just harbouring hatred on every shore? Is there any hope that peace will restore? Can innocent folk feel truly secure? Will we ever find sanctuary from the hate we deplore, or only be safe in the knowledge we are destined for more? Well, I'm with Clergyman Pete, who is cowering in the corner of the studio at the moment. So, Clergyman Pete, tell me, is there anywhere safe in the world anymore?
Can I come out yet? Well, look, it's no laughing matter, is it? I mean, it's one of those situations that you can't quite believe. I don't know how many terrorist and other and similar incidents there have been just this January, so just this year, but it must be over 30, I would say. You just listed a few of them there, and it's we're at the time of year where people have been looking back at the previous year and saying 2016 was the worst year ever. 2017 is keeping up with it, it's keeping pace, I would say, and it's only a few days in, so. It does feel as though the world is becoming unsafer. Is that a word? It's becoming less safe. It's you don't know where to turn, and yet the very places where you'd be looking for, where you'd be thinking, I can go there for safety, the countries that you would think would be a place where you'd find a safe haven, they seem to be the ones who are experiencing the worst problems. So yeah, I think when you set this up at the start, I think we're looking at such uncertainty in uncertainty as to where you can turn for help, for safety, for security, that it's not going to get better in 2017. Sorry, folks.
Well, I think that one of the things that we have to pick up on, which is what you just highlighted, which is the fact that traditional places of war no longer exist. Yeah. War occurs everywhere. So whether that is in a nightclub, and although you don't naturally think of going to a nightclub for war, but if we take, say, for example, the atrocities that occurred in Turkey when during the New Year celebration, people were sadly victims. They were just innocently celebrating the New Year, going about their business, and sadly through various atrocities they were victimized. And that's only one. Yeah. Of course, what we can also identify is the fact that if you look across other parts of the world, you will see that actually it can even happen on the streets. So I mentioned the one in the United Kingdom where a man was just shot in his car on the M62. Now, allegedly, the culprit apparently had a gun in the passenger seat and was a known criminal. But the fact is,
the culprit or the victim,
innocently going about your business.
The culprit or the victim. The victim had a gun.
Well, the cult. Well, I say culprit because he was a victim,
Oh, I see.
but
All right. The first name
he
was
was
Sean.
also, if you like, a terrorist
Oh,
in the
okay.
sense that obviously the news still has to unfold.
Yes.
But our belief is in this particular case, this was a known criminal who'd
Okay.
actually had issues with gun crime in the past. This time became a victim of shooting,
Yes,
ironically.
but you
So
see now it's because it's interesting that this is the level we're at, because it gets to that level of risk of just going out of your house. I was saying before we went on air, where I live at the moment, if I want to go out of the house at any time of the day or night, say I've left something down at the church or in my office or something like that, I need to I set off. I don't have any fear that I won't be coming back. There's just there's no fear of violence. It's not a particularly unusual area in Britain. It's not an unusually safe area. It's just
no,
that's what it's like in Britain at the moment. But things are changing rapidly, and
yes,
during the time of the attacks on the underground and on the buses in London a few years ago, it became it got to such a fever pitch that if you remember, there was a man chased through the underground who subsequently was found to be innocent, and he was shot on the train
yes,
just because things got to fever pitch. So it's not just the terrorists; it's the terror that they engender. Terrorists work through terror, and as people become more terrorized, they become more fearful. This affects the security services. Security services have guns, and so the danger increases exponentially as the terror level increases. As you
yes.
as you become nervous about being safe, you fight back, and that includes the soldiers and policemen are human, have the same weaknesses as we do, and they're going to react in situations such that innocent people get killed. So you come to thinking, well, that could be me. I may not be killed by the terrorist. I may be killed by the policeman. Come to kill the terrorist. Nowhere is safe.
Well, I think this is the point of the show, isn't it? That whether you're traveling on public transport, whether you're walking down the street, or possibly even in your own home, I think the question here is that what do we do about it? And I think we can dwell on the facts, and we can look at the issues that exist in the world, but we know that there is social unrest. There seems to be this cocktail of problems: politics, religion, the conflict that seems to be occurring in different parts of the world. But at the end of the day, what do we need to do as a society? I mean, what do we need to turn to? I mean, what would your advice be? I mean, bearing in mind that, again, you're from the clergy, let's try and sort of turn to things that we should be doing as best practice.
Well, I can talk to things from a spiritual point of view. Maybe you could address them more from a practical point of view of how to be safe. But what I would say is, first of all, as you know, from the way that the political and terrorist events of unfolding, things are going to get certainly going to get worse before they get better. Now, that being the case, you can't allow yourself to be taken over by terror. You can't allow that to happen, because that way lies madness. You need to have a place where you feel safe, and that can't be a physical place, because as you just said, it may come to a position where nowhere's safe. So spiritually, you need to have the confidence that you're kept safe, such that even death can't get you in the end. And the only way to do that, that I know of, is through trusting Jesus, such that you have that connection to God, who is the giver of life. The Bible puts it like this: God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. Psalm 46, verse 1. So you can go to him to keep safe and to receive strength. And so, because you're trusting in God, you have hope in the future. That's good. But also, God can be with you now, giving you that strength. And using that strength, make sure that others around you have that same feeling that you can be relied on, not to panic. Keep your loved ones in the knowledge that they're loved in case you lose them. Keep them close to you, know where people are, and don't let the terrorists win by allowing terror to overwhelm you. Rather, center in on that confidence that you'll always be ultimately safe.
Well, that's good advice. And I know that certainly from the point of view of any individual, good advice is to also say, do not compromise. I mean, at the end of the day, to your point earlier, which is if we dwell on a lot of these matters and compromise and we perhaps didn't do the things that we would normally do in our normal routines, then the fact is that the terrorists have won. You know, we've already identified that it doesn't matter whether you stay at home or whether you go on the train or whether you're at work. Potentially, you're a victim anyway. But actually, the sensible thing really is just to make sure that you keep an eye on what's going on. Make sure that, you know, you check on who's around you, what you're doing, and just keep your possessions close to you. I certainly think that perhaps we need to be a little bit more vigilant in our own homes, maybe. You know, when we lock up at night, just make sure that all the doors and the windows are actually locked. If you've got an alarm, certainly put them on. I know that a lot of the people that are on the estate that I'm on, they have alarms on in their homes, but they don't always put them on. Well, I'd suggest doing so. But I think when you're out and about in the streets, just go about your normal life. At the end of the day, if you do see something, I think the key is just to be mindful of your safety, the people that you're with, if you've got your friends or your family with you, but do not compromise. I mean, there's no point saying I'm not going to travel anymore because of the atrocities. That doesn't make sense. That's why the terrorists are doing this, to disrupt business, to disrupt politics, to disrupt all walks of life. You have to carry on with everything that you do in your normal life. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the whole of society will crumble.
Yes. So, yeah. So you heard it here on Mark and Pete. It's going to get worse, but we don't... It's going to be terrible.
Just to be a doomsday monger here. But
it's going to get worse. But what we're saying is it'll get worse before it gets better.
I mean, let's be honest. There is another factor that we should bring into equation here, which is it that actually it is genuinely worse? Are we seeing more crime happening of this type of nature, or is it that just we're reporting more on it? I know we've touched upon this before, but is it that really things are getting worse? It appears on the surface as though it is.
Yeah, well, it seems to me just that it's getting worse in that it's more targeted in that there's the people who are trying to use terror to get their own means seem to be stepping it up to the next level. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're more likely to be attacked. But it does mean you could be, that one person anyway in the world is more likely to be attacked. But it does mean that fewer places are safe, because the areas of attack now are places that used to be safe because of the confidence of people with this ideology of terror have come out of the closet and are now attacking places which they wouldn't have dared to do so before. So that's my opinion, is that yes, it will get worse rather, but then it will get better, because we will defeat this ideology. We will defeat these terrorists. They won't win in the end, but the way to win through is to be strong, and as you say, don't give up on our way of life. Don't give up on any fact of your life. Keep living your life, but just be vigilant, but don't give in.
Well, I think there's one word which we need to bring up on here, and this is the way I would conclude this, which is the word of belief. So in my opinion on this is that you've got to have the belief in the authorities that they're doing everything possible. They are. They're putting more resources into borders. They're putting more resources into crime, whether that's online crime, street crime, and many other places. It doesn't matter whether you travel to the west, to the east, to Central Europe, and many other places. The fact is that you've got to trust that the authorities are doing what they can, and they are. But at the same time, we've also got to have our own sense of we'd love to hear from you. So why not log on to markandpete.com and fill out the contact form and let us know your thoughts. Well, listeners, we wish you all a safe 2017. So join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Mark and Pete.